Hello and welcome to my channel. I picked up this Pteranodon kit from Tamiya. I'm going to get it assembled and painted in this video. It's 1 in 35 scale and it's item number 60204-800. It's time to see what's inside the box. And there's not a lot. 2 tiny screws and some instructions. Plus we also have a little island and a flying stand. The first bit of paperwork we have features all the basic information regarding model making, so if you're seasoned, there's no new information here. The next sheet gives us some basic facts about the Pteranodon, and on the reverse are the actual assembly instructions. I've also laid out all the plastic parts. There's 5 pieces altogether, with 1 alternate and 1 for size scale. No point wasting time, let's get clipping. You may have already noticed that this kit is transparent. I'm going to try and preserve some of that when it comes to painting, but just on the wings. There's only a couple of parts to glue on, and for this I used Tamiya model cement. Unfortunately the chest piece is not a good fit, so we need to do some filler on that. And there's also a gap left behind when it's stuck on the head. This putty has a long nozzle, so it's great to get into the hard to reach areas. With a wet finger I blend it all in. And once it's had time to dry, they can be sanded smooth. Just a reminder that these parts of the body will not be transparent and will be covered with paint. So it's time to give everything a test assembly. There's no need to use any glue, because gravity will do all the work for us. It looks good to me, but I'd like to add a little bit more. Thanks to the Jurassic World movies, we're used to seeing humans interact with dinosaurs, so I think it needs a human element. And luckily, I've got a bunch of sprues. These are from a zombie game, so we've got a mixture of people. I have survivors as well as half-eaten zombies, so I'm going to assemble one of these zombies to look like a half-eaten person and have her trying to crawl up the rock, where unfortunately she died. And now I also want a survivor for the top, fighting for her life, and this is basically what I came up with for each figure. And I like that one very much, but I'm not completely sold on the other one just yet. It looks a bit of a mess with all the filler on it, but hopefully once I paint it, it should be better. I went ahead and added the English version of the Pteranodon plaque, then I start painting the Pteranodon itself. My aim with this is to try and preserve some of the transparency in its wings. So painted base colour a rusty orange, followed by dry brushing on some bronze highlight. I add on a yellow ochre wash around the edges of the wings, then I start blending it towards the clear transparent area. Then using a mixture of both colours, I try and blend them together and get rid of the obvious line. The eyes are easy enough to do, as they're pure yellow. Then I just use a black Sharpie for the pupil. Using a torn off piece of sponge, I stipple on a brown wash over all the wings. This will not only give me texture, but it will also help preserve most of the transparency. I apply the same effect to both the top and the bottom of the wings, and once it dries it will look more leathery. I decided this guy needed one more pass of a brighter highlight, and I basically dry brushed it on the waist areas. Now I'm happy with how he's looking, so I'm going to move on to the island. We don't need to preserve the transparency, so I went ahead and primed it. I then gave it a base coat of medium grey, before coating it with a brown wash. This needs to completely dry before I can dry brush on the highlights, otherwise the colour will merge and you'll end up with a grey mess. And for those highlights I used a yellow ochre. Next I moved on to the ocean and I used a royal blue for that, and this meant painting carefully around the rocks. And then to top it off, I dry brush on the white for the tips of the waves, and this represents all the froth. I used a fine point paint pen to go over the lettering on the sign. These are far more accurate than a brush, and they're being used more and more miniatures, and I use it again to go around the edge. I want some greenery going on these edges, so I dab on some PVA glue, and then simply sprinkle on some model grass. And then to enhance the water, I cover it all with UV resin, and this resin will only set under UV light. You can leave it on the windowsill, but it's quicker to use a UV torch. And now it will permanently have that wet look. I've already painted up the half mummified corpse, so it's just a matter of gluing it into place, then brushing on some resin over the wet areas. And once it's cured, that will also help to keep it in place. Then I just have the survivor left to paint up, then she can go on top. I kept her colour scheme fairly straightforward. Brown boots, red shirt, green short. Then I finished off with the white dry brush for the highlights. And she glued down immediately in front of the flight stand. I positioned her in such a way that she can just about shoot the Pteranodon. And speaking of which, it's the last thing that needs putting into place. And there we have it, an enhanced Pteranodon scene. With the human character being about half the actual size, it made the Pteranodon even more menacing. I certainly do think that they add a sense of drama to what otherwise would be a fairly bland scene. And just for the record, those figures were available from Warlord Games from a zombie game of theirs. Just goes to show that it's always worth keeping the box of extras, as you'll never know when they'll come in use. As for the Pteranodon itself, I'm quite pleased to preserve some of the transparency in its wings. This allows a little bit of light to pass through and mimics the real thing. I have some other Tamiya dinosaur kits in my playlist. I'll leave a link for those at the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, if I can do it, so can you.